Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of the Monsters Den. It is Thursday night. Today, in the co-captain's chair, you've seen him on Comic Book Geezers. Here he is on Sea of Tranquility on the Monsters Den for the first time ever, Mr. Kirk Manning. What's happening, my friend? How are you?
Good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. All's good.
Yeah, cool. So filling in for Chris Allo, who is on vacation this week. So Kirk was only happy to help out here because in addition to being a huge comic book lover, Kirk is a big horror movie fan. So, and I know he's been watching a lot of horror movies of late. So we decided to do, for this kind of fill-in episode this week, we're just going to do another kind of picks of the week. These are some of the films we've been watching. So Kirk and I each have a stack of stuff to show off and talk about. And always, I will let my esteemed co-host go first with his first pick of the day.
Okay. Well, I would say I've got a little bit of a theme going on here because not that long ago, I read Max Brooks' De-Evolution. I don't know if you saw this. It is done. He did the World War Z.
Okay, gotcha.
Read book. It's Mel Brooks' son. I love his films too. So who would know? But it's all about people being attacked by Bigfoots. Now, how do you go wrong with that?
Wait, attacked by Bigfoots?
Yeah.
Sasquatches.
Yes.
Sign me up.
How do you go wrong with that, right?
Sign me up. Whoa.
It's a great book. I give it 2 thumbs up. Trust me. Recommend it. I like this first book, World War Z. I thought that was a good book too. So because of that, it referenced Snowbeast in the book. He does some great stuff in this book. So I then realized I'd never seen this movie. So I had to find
I saw it a long time ago. Man, Bo Svensson. Holy cow. Holy 70s, right? Jeez.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like my 70s cheese. So I was kind of like, I got to find this. And the killer is, I looked around and there's some talk about a release on Blu-ray, but I couldn't find it. So I had to go with this. I will say it was dirt cheap, but it kind of showed that too. It's not the most high class quality copy you're ever going to see. It's kind of, and I'm not even getting into the actual film itself. I'm just saying the DVD copy is. But then you get into the movie itself, which is awesome because how do you beat a big Yeti killing people?
You can't. Yeah, you can't.
So, I mean, acting is pretty cheesy. It's basically Jaws in the mountains during a winter carnival. So instead of a shark, we've got a Yeti who's got an attitude, running around trying to kill the snow princess and everybody else. It was made for television, so there's not a lot of gore or anything. Everybody keeps their clothes on. So, but it is pretty good, pretty cheesy. I give it, like, again, if you like Trilogy of Terror, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, that kind of stuff.
Don't Be Afraid of the Dark is great. Holy cow.
Yeah, I'm going to say these are the kind of movies like on a Friday night, you just want to kind of relax and kind of let your brain melt.
And the funny thing is we all saw those growing up as kids. So even if you don't really remember them too much, once you pop one of these in, you're like, oh, wait a second. We watched that on a Friday night back in 1970, blah, 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 right? So, yeah. Too funny. I haven't seen that in a million years. I need to see it. That's, pretty cool. All right. I'm blowing my mind that Mel Brooks' son wrote that book, or the both of them was talking about it. It's kind of cool. Who knew? All right, my first pick is actually 3 here because it's all part of the same series here. I have been watching the Hatchet films. Hatchet 1, Hatchet 2, and Hatchet 3. I haven't seen the Victor Crowley flick yet, but it's on order coming in. Probably, and Chris Allo and I talk about this all the time. I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the more recent horror stuff, like modern horror, the last decade or so. I don't find a lot of the horror films in very recent memory all that scary. They're either, these tame PG or PG-13 films with a lot of, jump scares, and that's it. Or they're, rated R films that are all about just gore and torture stuff. But meanwhile, there's no scares and there's no plot. However, the Hatchet films are like a complete throwback to the 80s slashers. and so brutal. You know, I mean, it's just like, granted, these are not big plot-driven films, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not Shakespeare, but it's great stuff. I mean, if
right?
you liked Halloween, the original Friday the 13th series, I got to say, it's like a love letter to all that stuff.
It totally is, and they're pretty well made. I mean, you know, that's the special effects are good, the gore effects are great. You know, you got plenty of violence and nudity, and you know, teens in peril. Although then I would say they're a little bit older than teens here, but it's all down in the swamps, the occasional alligators and whatnot. And I would say, you know, the Victor Crowley character is he's again another one of those like almost like supernatural figures that no matter what you do to him, you behead him, you shoot him in a million pieces, you burn him, he's going to come back in the next film no matter what. It's like he's just indestructible. And you know, any kind of guy who can rip people in half like he does, that's pretty entertaining. I think. I know it's kind of sick to say that, but these are a blast. So I had this for a long time, but I only just saw the second and third recently, and pretty good. You know, as far as I would still say the first one is the best, but 3 was damn entertaining. So
I've seen the first 2. I've got to go out. I have to hunt out the third one then. Yeah, because I liked, and the cast is great too, because there's all these people in those, and I forget who's in it, but I know the one that played Meyer's niece is in there, and there's a whole bunch of people. And again, if you like those 80s, early 90s horror films, you'll see a lot of familiar faces, which is great.
Yeah, that's what's her name, the actress. She was definitely in hold on, I'll tell you in a second. Oh boy. Yeah, she was in Halloween, and she plays she's in the second and third film because she actually replaced the lead actress from the first film who did not want to repeat, and then they grabbed her. Yeah, what is her name? Holy cow. She's a Jesus, whatever, I forget her name. Anyway, there's a really Danielle Harris. That's it, Danielle Harris. Yeah. So, but yeah, these are a lot of fun. And like, yeah, you see, and Tony Todd is in these. You know, of course from Candyman, and then I like how they like have certain actors who are in all these films, but they're playing different characters in each film. It's like, well, wait, didn't he get killed in the first film? He pops up again. So yeah, but definitely very cool. And yeah, that out of all the more recent stuff, I love the Hatchet films. I think they're great. So back to you.
All right. So then, because again, back to I get into patterns with stuff. I went old school, and you know, again, a big Hammer fan. So the Abominable Snowman. I mean, again, not a more plot driven. It's an interesting play on the whole Yeti again. I personally, I loved it. As I said, I love all these old Hammer films, and especially the Blu-ray packages. Oh, I had a bunch of these on regular DVDs, or you get the kind of the low budget ones that were released. And I've been getting rid of those and getting the Blu-rays because they give you all the background on it. They talk about it's great packaging. And again, if you like that old Hammer stuff, this is great because it's got Peter Cushing, who I'm a big fan of.
Oh yeah.
God rest his soul.
Yeah.
And again, well filmed.
And Forrest Tucker from F was in that too. Yep.
Yeah. He was in The Crawling Eye too, which I did for Hammer. I think those were like he only did a couple for Hammer, but
I think that's it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Abominable Snowman. I think it's great. And you know what? It's almost like you get to see the snowman at the very, very end, but it's almost like if they didn't show them, I would have been okay with it because it's almost like you didn't even need that scene. You heard them all throughout the film, but you never actually got to see anything. But I just think it's, you almost feel like you're out there in the snow on these mountains, right? That they did a really good job of that too. It's and I agree. I think they've done a fantastic job with the Blu-rays of all those Hammer stuff. You know, you remember the old Anchor Bay DVD issues on a lot of those Hammer films? They had a lot of them had the 2-on-1, right? You had the 2 films in each package. I remember when we bought those, 20, 25 years ago, we thought how great those were. And it's like, and then once you start upgrading your equipment and you pop those in, you're like, yeah, these don't really look that good anymore. And the Blu-rays are really, really nice. Really nice. So cool. So you got 2 for 2 with Abominable Snowman. I hear you. All right. So here's kind of another set here. So Subspecies, all 5 films. All
Nice.
5 films are here. So we've basically got Subspecies, Subspecies 2, Bloodstone, Subspecies 3, Blood, what is it? Bloodlust, Subspecies 4, Blood Storm, and then the 5th film, which is what the hell is it called? Vampire Diver. I forget the name of it already. It is called Vampire Journals, which was kind of like a it deviates a little bit. It's almost like kind of like a prequel, so to speak. But this is this is from Full Moon. Full Moon has all sorts of wacky films, but this is their one kind of like vampire series that ran that Full Moon did. And you know, I love the lead guy who plays the main vampire, and this is like, you know, and a lot of, I mean, we've seen how many different vampire films and series over the years where they try to make the vampire be like sophisticated and suave and sometimes sexy and all that kind of stuff. That's not the case here. This vampire is just disgusting and gnarly. It's kind of almost like they take the Nosferatu, you know, Count Orlok from the silent era and kind of brought him into, you know, the modern era. And I love the fact that they shot all these films in Romania, which was pretty cool. And you know, pretty good effects. They're all pretty bloody. They have just, you know, everything you'd want. A lot of stop motion effects too, because of course, you know, the Subspecies, they have all these like little creatures and stuff running throughout most of the films, and they were all done with stop motion. So if you love like the Harryhausen and stuff, pretty good stop motion effects in these. And this is, I believe, this is a Spanish Blu-ray set. It's got all the films in it, so it's pretty, you know, it's pretty neat. It's kind of cool.
That is nice.
Yeah,
cool. They did great stuff. I love the Trancer series, Puppet Master. I
love the Puppet Master films. They're so much fun.
I would say that's stuff. They were B-rate films, but they were like the 50s, you know, the 80s version of the 50s B-rate films that, you know, what people used to go and see and just out on a Friday night and watch. And as I said, classic stuff.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Yeah, they actually, you know, I mean, granted, there's a lot of crap that Full Moon have put out, but there's also a lot of really good movies. And if you like the tiny terror films, like, have you ever seen Demonic Toys?
Yeah,
that's a blast. That's a blast. You know, Ghoulies was one of their original films. You know, you had this series. You know, a lot of really strong films. You know, what else? Hideous is actually pretty fun. Well, I'll get to that in a few minutes. It's in my stack. But yeah. But I would recommend these. I would say out of all these 5 films, you know, the first one's really good. The third film is actually really strong, and the last film is way off the rails. And again, another one of those things where, just kind of like in the Hatchet films, they kill this damn vampire Count Radu in like every movie, and then of course, just like Christopher Lee, comes back in the next one all the time. Cut off his head, burn him to a crisp, put him out in the light, whatever. He comes back all the time. So, but yeah, Subspecies, fun stuff. Fun stuff.
Well, I don't have another Snowman film, but I ordered the, and this is probably where this will come in next, is I'm going through a Paul Naschy kick right now.
Oh,
so
awesome.
I ordered the first volume of this, and this is a great section collection of stuff, because again, it comes with 5 films in it. You can get this. Amazon keeps putting this on sale for about $35. It usually goes for about $50.
Yeah.
But 5 films, Blu-ray, I think that's really worth it. It comes with Horror Rises from the Tomb, Vengeance of the Zombie, Blue Eye of the Broken Doll, Human Beasts, and Night of the Werewolves. And I'm a big werewolf fan, and I love his werewolves. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
And so I'm psyched because the second set has The Werewolf versus the Yeti. So I've got to see that.
Which is a really good film. Yeah, that's a really good, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. So I got this, and I actually got Inquisition along with it. I ordered that at the same time because I was like, the cover drew me. I got to admit, I was kind of like, well, let's check that out. So again, these films are a lot of cheese. You know, it's like, oh my God, my glass fell off like every 5 minutes. But they're fun. And you know what? I got to admit, my kids walk by and they're like, what the hell are you watching?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is good stuff. And they're like, oh, and they shake their head and leave the room. But
well, I got to show you, because another Paul Naschy film just came out on Blu-ray, and I got to show it to you because I didn't pull it, but I think you will really appreciate this one. So this just came out on Mondo Bizarro. So this is The Howl of the Devil. So this is one of the last ones that he did. And in this film, he plays, again, all really briefly, and they're mostly kind of like dream sequences, but he plays the werewolf, he plays the Frankenstein monster, he plays Phantom of the Opera, the Hunchback, he plays all these different monsters. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. It's total Euro trash. I mean, if you like all the Paul Naschy films, but this is pretty good. And he actually plays two characters. He plays twin brothers in this film. So pretty cool. If you haven't seen it, this just came out on Blu-ray like a month ago, something like that. So
you notice in these, it's funny because the police officers in these films all shoot everybody. Like, I got to admit that I found it hysterical because the cops in all these movies I've been watching, they just shoot everybody. They walk in, they kill people, and then they get in the car and drive away. Like, it's very like crazy. I was like, and you're not too sure where it's supposed to take place because some of them are in Peru, some of them in South America. You're like, I don't know, France, but you know, again, I don't know where this is, but I would definitely stay away from the police in these.
Yeah, the cops are basically morons in all these movies, right?
Yeah,
it's no rhyme or reason. It's like, oh, look, there's someone, boom.
Yeah. There's no freeze, you know, hold it, you know, the police, they shoot first. I mean, it was the 70s. Dirty hair was big. What do you got?
That's right. That's right. All right. I just watched this one just the other day. This is really good. So the one and only film directed by Tony LoBianco, who, of course, was a popular kind of like a B actor in the 70s and the 80s. And he did this one film called Too Scared to Scream, which just came out on the Scorpion Rising. And this film stars Mike Connors, of course, from, Mannix and various other TV shows. It also has Ann Archer and Ian McShane from Deadwood and lots of other shows. And this was, I think, from 1980 or 79, something like that. So it's kind of like a 70s, late 70s, New York City filmed TV crime thriller / slasher film mixed with a little bit of Italian giallo. So it's kind of like a murder mystery. The whole film, you're kind of guessing, who the killer is, who the slasher is. Ian McShane is one of his earliest roles, so it's kind of interesting to see him in this film. And it's got plenty of blood. It's got plenty of naked women. It's got, like I said, all sorts of, who done it, little red herrings to think that you know who it is and blah, blah, blah. I thought this was entertaining as all hell. Really good film. If you like really early slasher stuff, but like the kind of mystery aspect of the Italian giallo films, this is quite good. Amazing. He never did any other movies. Tony LoBianco. He just directed this one film and that was it. But really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. I highly recommend it.
All right. I guess my next one is technically your fault again, because I blame you for like turning me on to stuff or reminding me of stuff. And then I'm like, crap, I got to go out there and buy that. So I got these because I was looking and I noticed you had listed that you had watched the original Night Stalker. And then I'm like, well, I can get the Night Strangler too. So, and they were awesome. I got to admit, like, I hadn't seen these in so many years. And I
hadn't
really
either. Yep.
Would they hold up, And, I'd watched the original, I bought the box set like 5-10 years ago when that came out of the series, the one season of it that went out. And that was good. But I haven't gone back to revisit it. But this, I watched these and now I've got to go back and watch the regular season because I thought these were fantastic. They aged well. Again, made for television. I was surprised how popular there's little documentaries in there and stuff, and they talk about how popular these movies were when they were originally aired, and that Davin McGavin quit because I was surprised like the show only lasted one season, and he wanted out. That was what killed it. I didn't know that. So
well, apparently, because I watched all those documentaries too, and apparently he got very disenchanted with the whole Monster of the Week kind of format that they were going to, which I watched that every week when I was a kid, and that's the reason why I watched it, because you wanted to see, who's. But I get it, because I think he wanted it to be more of kind of like a crime thriller procedural type of thing, which I get. And then it just turned out to be like, who's the next supernatural spook that's going to be on, each week. And I guess that got a little played out. But, the ratings were suffering towards the end, because I don't think the ratings on the show were ever as good as the ratings for the two movies, which are both excellent. I totally agree with it. They hold up really well. They're both suspenseful, and the kind of like the villains or whatever are fairly believable, and really good. And it captures the spirit of the era, I think.
Yeah, very. As I said, it took me back to sitting watching on a black and white television when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And and just watching this stuff. So it was because I remember like it'd come on at like 11 o'clock at night, and like back then you had your TV guide, so you look through it and you'd be like, oh, Friday at like 11 o'clock at night on channel 2 is the Night Stalker. So you'd be like, oh, I'm staying up.
Yep.
Folks were like, what?
And he was so great in the role.
Oh.
And plus, he always played off against his, the chief, the editor there, right?
Yeah.
His name, another actor who was in so many things back then, and just really well done, really well done. And I think Kino Lorber did a great job on those transfers. I mean, those films look really, really good considering how old they are. Yeah. Cool. I'm glad you enjoyed those. That's good stuff. Well, I hadn't watched this in a long time, and I have to thank you, because I think you're the first guy who ever turned me on to this film like a million years ago. I think we actually watched this back, in college together, and I was kind of like, oh my God, this is awful, but it's fun. The Toxic Avenger.
Yeah. Trauma. Oh God, that is so horrible. It's awesome. Oh my God.
This is one of the best really bad movies ever. I mean, it's so corny and just absolutely batshit ridiculous, but that's what's so good about it, right?
Yeah, I gotta admit, it's funny too. The guy Kaufman or whatever who owns Trauma, he was good friends with Stan Lee. Like, it's so funny. The two of them were like buddies.
Go figure.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
that is good cheese. That's good stuff.
I hadn't seen this in a million years, and I was like, oh yeah, it's just as out there as it was way back then. I mean, it's just the whole plot, the whole story is just so absolutely ridiculous. But I love how after he turns into Toxie, like for like 20 minutes they don't show his face. And I didn't remember that when I first saw it. And I'm like, why is he still not turning around? And then all of a sudden they make the big reveal, and it's like, oh, all righty, cool. There you go. I guess they wanted to build up to it a little bit, but crazy stuff. All right, back to you.
All right, I'm going to go with 80s, go back to 80s. I just got this recently, Night of the Creeps. I love this.
Awesome. Stuff. Yeah.
Fred Decker, who did this, and did Monster Squad too. Really, I was surprised he did those two and RoboCop 3, which I was like, oh,
I didn't know he did RoboCop. Okay, yeah.
And this and Monster Squad didn't do good recently. I actually remember seeing both of these in the theater and loving them. But they just never did well. So his career kind of dried up, which I was surprised about. I figured he stepped into some other role or whatever, but I'd love to see him do some more films. As I said, 2 out of 3 isn't bad by any means. RoboCop 3, I don't think anybody could have saved. So,
no.
But Night of the Creeps, great. I love the fact too the Blu-ray has the alternate ending, which I had seen but had been edited. I had a poor copy of it. Like, somebody made me a really good bootleg years ago with it. But this is great. It has tons of extras in it. And I'll be honest, I love the film so much. I watched the whole film, and then I watched all the extras because I was like, oh, you're so like, I would just, where's Night of the Creeps 2? I want that. I need more, but
good interviews with the cast, I think, in the special features. And yeah, they seem to have such a blast doing that. It's surprising. But, the movie never really caught on. Well, maybe why? I mean, how would you classify Night of the Creeps? Like, what would, would you call it a zombie film? Would you call it like an alien film? I mean, it's like, it's hard to, you really can't classify it as anything. Maybe that's why. Maybe the general public just couldn't figure it out back then, but
Yeah.
people love it now, right?
Yeah, and I got to admit, that's the fun thing. Like, you got these weird aliens at the beginning, and then it goes into this almost like this 50s thing, and then you jump to the 80s where you've got zombies. I just love it, and little slugs shooting out of people's mouths.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah, yeah. I agree. Yeah, I think it's held up really, really well, and it's just a really fun movie, really fun film. Cool.
Yeah, you can get a Blu-ray dirt cheap on it, which again I think is almost a shame. I'm happy I got my copy dirt cheap, but I was like,
yeah,
this is a great film. I was like,
yeah, because I think you have the that's a Scream Factory, right? Shot Factory.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Oh no, this says I don't know.
Maybe not. I can't remember anymore.
Yeah, it's hard to say this stuff. Just buy it.
Yeah.
Don't put it.
So here's one, a more recent film that I had never heard of, and then I caught a kind of like a back and forth dialogue between Chris Allo and one of our viewers on Facebook talking about this film, and it looked kind of interesting to me. So I went and did a read up on it, and it sounded really good, so I just bought it. And it's from the executive producer of The Witch, who did a pretty, film not long ago that a lot of people really dug. It's called The Void. And Pure Cosmic Dread, it's called. But this is, if you loved Carpenter's The Thing, you'll love this.
Really?
Yes. It basically, the whole movie takes place like in this hospital where like kind of I guess it's aliens like start to like take over people's bodies, and there's all this like I mean, you know how like in The Thing you get all of a sudden these life forms take over, and all of a sudden they become like these gigantic monstrosities as whatnot. There's elements of that going on here. Really good practical effects, no CGI. And I think this entire film was as a result of a crowdfund pledge that they took up, and apparently so many people pledged in money that they had extra money to do all the effects. And it's all practical effects, makeup, and all that kind of stuff. Really good. It's gory beyond belief. They got like all these weird like cult characters that are all surrounding the hospital. There's all this weird stuff getting. All these people are trapped inside, and it's really good. You know, the movie overall, by the time you get done watching the movie, you're kind of like, all right, I'm not quite sure I understand exactly what happened in this film, but it was so much fun watching it, and it was so gory, and the monsters were absolutely amazing that I don't care. I don't really, the end of the movie, everything ends, and you're kind of like, you're like scratching your head, like, all right, not sure that I understand the resolution here, but it was just so much fun. Yeah, I would just tell you, go out and get it, because I know you will love it. It's so cool.
All right, I wrote it down because I'm gonna go probably order it tonight. So
yeah. I just absolutely loved it. I don't often take like chances on something that I had no clue about before, especially some of the more recent stuff. But that was good because I love the old school feel of it. I think that's what I really liked about it. It was a good homage to like those 80s horror films, and 2 thumbs up. Dug that quite a bit.
All right. I kind of similar. I just recently watched the Fear Street on Netflix. I don't have the box for that, obviously, but parts 1, 2, and 3. I don't know. Again, it kind of surprised me because it's R.L. Stine, who I'm not. It's Goosebumps. To me, it just wasn't my thing. I think I was too old when that was popular, and it just never kind of. But Fear Street on Netflix, I'm strongly recommending that.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Parts 1, 2, and 3. And it's gonna one of these love story things to me, to horror films. This is where you see stuff that you've seen 1,000 times before. You see your Jason character, you see your kind of Ringish character, you see things in it that you're like, wow, all right. And there's kind of like that whole Children of the Corn thing. Even there's a whole bunch of weird stuff in it. I strongly recommend watching it. I initially wasn't going to watch it because, as I said, I'm not big on the Stein stuff, but it was like one of those nights where I was clicking channels, and I finally was like, I'll watch this for 30 minutes and then go to bed.
So it's three episodes?
3 movies.
Oh, 3 movies. Okay, gotcha.
So it is kind of an investment. But as I said, I got in and watched the first one, which is really kind of like reminded me of a whole 80s thing. And then I was in. So then you're kind of like, I got to watch this thing to the end. And it's a solid run. It's a lot of fun. You got Netflix. It's free.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. So I'm gonna have to check that out. Fear Street, right?
Fear Street parts 1, 2, and 3. They've been doing well too on the ratings for it. And again, you see, people you've seen before, some good acting, a really, I thought, a solid script. So again,
I will check it out. I will look into that. Might as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here's a blast from the past.
Oh, wait,
Johnny Sacco and Giant Robots.
You gotta love that. Oh,
just came out on Blu-ray.
yeah.
Look at that. Japanese rubber monster, rubber robots. I used to watch this show all the time when I was a kid. And I think it only ran for 1 season, but they showed the reruns all the time. So, when I was like, I don't know, 5 years old, whatever, I mean, this was on TV all the time. And again, this was a time where I was discovering Gamera and Godzilla, and you had Ultraman, all this stuff. And it's so cheesy and silly, but it's so much fun. And what they did was they kind of like condensed, I think there were like 15 episodes originally or something like that. And what they did was they condensed a lot of the stuff from all of those episodes into one 90-minute movie. So basically you have, so like I think there's 2 main villains, and they both play a part in this film. And then there's all the different monsters that Giant Robot goes against. They're all in here, and they're all, I mean, come on, they're guys in rubber suits, just like, all miniatures, all that stuff. I mean, this is so cheesy, but it's so much fun. Giant Robot comes out.
The best stuff, man.
The missiles out of his hand. I mean, you remember it. And it's like I'm sitting there watching this. I remember every line, and I haven't seen these in like a million years. I think I had like a bootleg VHS of this, or a lot of these, like back like 30 years ago. But yeah, this was so cool. I absolutely had to get it. Just such a fan of all this stuff.
Oh, it's so awesome when you find those things and you're like, I didn't think they still had this. You're like, oh.
I was watching today. My wife comes in, she goes, "Oh my God, this is terrible." I'm like, "Yeah, but there's there's a certain kind of charm for me anyway, because I grew up with this stuff." So it's like I know it's bad. I know there's like no budget to these, and you can see, every time that the rubber monsters are fighting and whatever, you can see like with the mask lifts up, and you can see the human skin underneath the seam and all that kind of stuff. And they're throwing punches like boxers and doing these wrestling moves. It's like it's so bad, but it's like there's just something about it that to me just kind of like gives me the warm and fuzzies, because I grew up watching rubber monster films, and it's I'll never get tired of them.
Come on, if you're clicking channels and you see an old Godzilla film, you stop. Even if you've only got like 15 minutes to kill, and you're like, look, I gotta get to work, or I gotta do this, and you're like, wait a minute, we're just gonna watch him beat the hell out of the other monster for about 5-10 minutes.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
He's gonna torch Anguirus in 2 minutes, so I gotta sit and watch it, and then even though I saw it last week, I gotta watch it anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else you got? You got any others?
I got one more, and Peninsula, which is a new one actually. I was surprised. A friend of mine made me watch Last Train to Busan, which is the first part of this. It's a zombie film. It's South Korean. I will say this, if you don't do subtitles, you should keep going. And I gotta admit, like, there is that point of me where I've got to be in the mood to read while I'm watching something, 11:30 at night. I'm usually not like, oh, I can read. No. But this is fun. This is a fun film. It's like Fast and the Furious, fast zombies, fast cars, 400 billion bullets. Again, human beings are worse than the zombies.
Of course.
Which is what all those zombie films are. It's like zombie apocalypse happens, and every decent human being gets eaten in about 5 minutes, and all you're left with is a bunch of scumbags. So, but this is a really good film. Train to Busan, the first part was on Netflix. That's where I watched it. They didn't dub it, so as I said, you're reading through something. But there's some of the parts. It's a zombie film, no offense. It's not like, well, what's the zombie's motivation?
You're not really watching for the dialogue anyway, right?
Yeah, and there's some good dialogue in there, but as I said, and it's got a plot. Both of them I thought were very good. I would say if you like that genre of horror film, strongly recommend it. It's a good run. This one hasn't been released on Netflix or anything right now, so I had to buy it. So but I was kind of like, I liked the first one so much, I was like, I'm in. So
I don't have an issue with subtitles. The problem is, though, it's like, yeah, you have to be kind of in the right mood to be able to do that, because I find that if I'm watching a film with subtitles, I tend to be watching the subtitles more than I am watching the film. And then all of a sudden things are happening and I'm looking at the bottom reading, and I'm like, and I'm not grasping. You're supposed to be visualizing, right? And all I'm thinking is like, I'm reading and I'm visualizing on my own without actually watching the visual aspect of the film. So it's kind of, if you're not, if like late at night where you're having a hard time following anyway, so it can be difficult. But I know some people that refuse to watch a film with subtitles. I don't mind like a drama or something like that where there's not a lot going on. It's a very dialogue driven film. I don't mind that too much, but it's can't do it all the time.
No, that's why, as I said, I have to be in the right mindset. Getting back to the Paul Naschy films, those are all dubbed, which and so at least I can, like, it's 11 o'clock at night, everybody, because no offense, my wife is not watching any of this. So I'm sitting there, I pour myself a scotch, I sit down, I start watching. I got to admit, it's been a long day. You want something that's going to relax you. I can't keep going back and forth, especially, I hate to say, some of those films are more visual anyway. So you're kind of like.
True. Speaking of Paul Naschy, I forgot to tell you this before. So that Howl of the Devil Blu-ray that I just got, guess who else is in this film?
Who?
Carolyn Monroe.
Oh.
Mid-80s. Mid-80s.
I think I'm in. I got to go get a copy of that.
And she was also in, hold on, is there something else here what else was I watching recently that she was in? Oh man, now I'm drawing a blank. She was in another film. I'm pretty sure I have it here. Oh God, which one was it? Maybe I'll get to it in a minute. I don't know. She was another movie that I was watching recently. Anyway, I'll get to it in a second. But I'm going to just run through a bunch. I got a bunch more here. I might as well just finish them all off here. So this is a pretty wacky 80s film, The House on Tombstone Hill. So basically put together a bunch of stupid teens and ask them to go, you pay them money to go fix up an old kind of haunted house right out in the middle of nowhere. Generally doesn't spell good things, right? Because
how could this go wrong, right?
No, right? They're not going to do what they're supposed to do, and so that's kind of what happens. And they get trapped in this house amidst all sorts of craziness. One by one, they all get killed off. The house won't let them leave. This is a pretty fun film. I like this one quite a bit. This was I don't even remember where this is. Vinegar Syndrome just reissued this on Blu-ray. Pretty cool. This was also another Vinegar Syndrome film. Was this a Spanish film? Yeah, Spanish film. The Corruption of Chris Miller. Cool kind of sort of slasher, giallo, psychological thriller type of thing. Pretty cool. Really good acting in this. And it stars Jean Seberg, who was originally in another film called Breathless, and she was a very popular actress at the time, and American actress. And this is quite good. I like this quite a bit. I bought it just on a whim because Vinegar Syndrome was having a sale. I was like, yeah, why not? And at the same sale, I also got Bloody New Year. This is also a lot of fun. I can't tell you how many films I have watched in recent memory where people go by boat, they wind up on some island, and they get on the island, and there's either people on the island who something's weird about him, or there's kids on the island that want to kill adults, or there's like, Doom Watch, half man, half fish people. Dagon by Stuart Gordon is another one. And this one is no different. There's all these ghosts and spooks on the island, and it's just, and they want to, you can't leave. And then there's people this also has a weird element of like, the Evil Dead. So some of the people who are on the island all of a sudden turn into these, crazy, almost like zombie, like crazy devil creatures, or what. It's totally crazy. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's a lot of fun. So I recommend that. Here's the other film with Carolyn Monroe, The Devil Within Her, with Joan Collins, Donald Pleasance, and Carolyn Monroe.
Wow.
Another 70s film. This kind of almost takes the Omen and Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist. Basically, Joan Collins is like an ex stripper, and she marries this very wealthy Italian guy who's played by what the hell is his name? He's in so many of the Hammer films. God, I'm forgetting. I'm drawing a blank on his name. He played Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. Ralph Bates. Ralph Bates. Yeah, Ralph Bates. Yeah. So Ralph Bates is in this as well. Donald Pleasance is in this. Like I said, it's got a great cast. Joan Collins and Carolyn Monroe, and she winds up getting cursed. The story it's just so weird. When she's still a dancer, she works in the set that she does. There's a dwarf, a midget guy, right? And he's also works at the club, and he's and he lusts after her. She doesn't really realize it, but then he eventually gets brave enough to come on to her, and she rejects him. And then I guess there's something, he's kind of like a Satan worshiper or something like that, and he puts a curse on her, and she winds up getting pregnant, and the baby is possessed by a demon. Of course. So then goes and like kills almost everybody she's in her life and what have you. And she realizes something is wrong with the baby. And it's a very fun, wacky film that's, kind of derivative of a lot of the other stuff of the time. But man, Donald Pleasance is so good as the doctor in this. Carolyn Monroe is awesome as always. She just basically needs to show up, and she's great. There's another actress who plays Joan Collins's husband's sister, and she plays a nun, and she's an integral part of the film. But yeah, it's good. It's got plenty of blood. It's got plenty of kind of what the fuck moments and everything like that. But really, really good. Like it comes across almost like a TV film, but it's obviously there's lots of nudity and lots of blood and stuff like that. But Demented, if you like the whole demonic baby type stuff. Here is a fun, wacky slice of 80s teen slasher films. Splatter University.
Oh,
yeah, this is bad, but it's a lot of fun. This is bad, but a lot of fun. But again, another one of those things where the whole film, you're like, all right, who's the actual killer here? And they do a great job, I think, of kind of, well, it could be this person, could be that person. So that's a lot of fun. That's another Vinegar Syndrome sale. Severance sale, Skin Deep, just came out on Blu-ray. This is also a lot of fun. Kind of like a mix between the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre and maybe The Hills Have Eyes.
Huh?
It's kind of like that backwoods type of horror, so to speak, with the crazy family of mutants and all that sort of thing.
Hillbilly horror.
It's like kind of like hillbilly horror, absolutely. And it's got Forrest Ackerman plays a small role in the film. Yeah, he's really old here. This was done in the 90s, or 2003 actually. So it's it's within the last 20 years. But a lot of good, practical effects, a lot of blood, a lot of gore. Over the top, of course, has got this he's like the main kind of creature or bad guy in the film. He's one of the family, the crazy family. There's also the little dwarf guy from Willow.
Yeah,
he plays one of his brother in the film, and he's wacky beyond belief. It's got a wacky older woman plays the mother of all of them. It's just you need to see this to believe it. It's pretty crazy, and it's like it's a little slow getting going, but then the last like 40 minutes is just absolutely relentless. just relentless. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And a little more full moon stuff, Hideous. So if you like all the little creatures, stop motion stuff and little puppets, this is pretty cool, pretty wacky. Here's another one by them also, Head of the Family.
Oh God, yeah, remember that one?
Yeah, right.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fun. You know, it's terrible, but it's fun. And then the last one I'll show today is The Dark.
Oh,
which is a cool another like early, I think this is early 80s if I'm not mistaken, 80, 81. This is kind of a weird, is it an alien film? Is it a slasher film? Is it a crime thriller, or is it all of them rolled into one? And it's got a really good cast. It's got Kathy Lee Crosby and William Devane. Kathy Lee Crosby looks amazing in this film, by the way. Richard Jackal's in this. All sorts of folks that you've seen before in the late 70s, early 80s movies. Really good. You know, the effects are really cheesy. You know, when the alien shows up, he shoots like these rays out of his eyes, and it's so bad.
I love that.
You know, yeah, but it's a lot of fun. This was a Chris Allo recommendation, and I dug this quite a bit. So yeah, The Dark, Code Red Blu-ray, pretty cool. So yeah, I've been watching a lot of stuff.
I was gonna say, man, I was impressed how much I've gone through recently, but man, you blew me away.
Well, I try, you know, like if I got like nothing going on the weekends, I'll take because I'm up so early in the morning, so I'll get up at like 6:30 in the morning, and I'll just start watching movies till like noon. And then if I got other stuff to do, it's good, but I can knock off 3 films, you know, at least in the morning.
Yeah.
So, and then if I have time at night, you know, I watch a film at night or something. And, you know, during the week it's kind of hard, but yeah, I've gotten some watching in the last couple of weekends. And then, you know, we've had a lot of rain, right? So a lot of times on the weekends, the weather's been shitty. So, you know, if you can't go out and do stuff outside, you know, the wife works on the weekend. So I sit home while she's working and I watch movies.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Kristen's been out. My wife's been out a bunch lately. So that's true. Yeah. That's where I've been kind of catching a film here or there. It's like the house is empty. I'm like, perfect time, you know, got 2 hours here. Let's watch some cheesy Spanish horror. So it's awesome.
Why not? Cool. Well, there you have it, everybody. So I think you have a lot of recommendations this week of stuff to check out. So let us know what you think of any of these films if you've seen them, and if you haven't, go watch them and then report back in the comments below and let us know what you think of some of these. Some of these are really bad, but still a lot of fun, and some are just really damn excellent. You know, we have a couple stinkers here, but that's okay. Stinker in horror, stinkers are okay. Even some of the worst horror films you can have fun with. So yeah. So I want to thank Kirk for jumping in here this week at the 11th hour and sharing some of the stuff that he's been watching. And I think I want to see Kirk back on the Monsters Den soon. So we will try and make that happen. And next week, so we've got another cool special show next week. So we've got Mike Portnoy, of course, from Transatlantic and Winery Dogs, X of Dream Theater, and so many other bands coming on the show, along with Jamie Laszlo and Dan Brown of The Warehouse. And we're going to be ranking our top 5 David Lynch thrillers. So that's next week. And then the week after, we got Chris Allo and myself. We're going to be ranking our top 5 Dario Argento horror films. So a lot of cool Monsters Den stuff coming up in the weeks ahead. And so stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't. Click on that notification bell so you get notified of all of our content as soon as it posts. If you want to make a channel donation, the link to our Ko-Fi page is below, as well as the link to our Sea of Tranquility merch site, which has all sorts of cool t-shirts and hoodies and hats and caps and all sorts of stuff for all the different SOT shows, the Monsters Den and the Prague Seed, Hudson Valley Squares. We also have Comic Book Geezers merch too on the same page, so check that out as well. Get your Adventures of Wood shirt and don't be a sap. So we all have one, so wear that shirt proudly. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. For Kirk Manning, I am Pete Pardo. Good night, everybody. See you next week on the Monsters Den. Take care.